So this video is about my symptoms and how autism affects me. When we talk about diagnosis ratio, it's about 5 men to 1 woman being diagnosed. All our symptoms are different, men and women, and it differs from person to person as well, not just gender to gender. My symptoms are I have OCD, I have anxiety, I have sensory sensitivity, I struggle with communication, which you can tell from watching my videos. I find it hard to sometimes remain eye contact. I struggle to say things that I'm thinking. I even struggle to have conversations with people sometimes. I also find it hard to speak to people that I don't know. It's actually almost impossible. Answering phones, even answering emails is so overwhelming that I can't even deal with it sometimes. As well as communication, I also struggle with tone and reading tone from other people and expressing tone. So anyone that knows me who's watching this will know if you've ever got a text or an email from me, sometimes it can come across as I'm being quite mardy. Also when you talk to me, sometimes I can come across as I'm being quite mardy. Often I'm not. I just sometimes don't know how to convey tone when I'm speaking to people. Sometimes the things that I say come across as rude or abrupt. Even when I type things, they come across as rude or abrupt. They're never meant to come across that way. And even when I'm saying them, sometimes I just can't even get it out. Like, it's so hard for me even now to explain that sometimes in my head I feel like I'm talking in a very normal tone, and then when I sit back and think about what I've just said, I think to myself, I was maybe a bit rude then. Sometimes I don't notice it at all though until someone calls me out on it, and that's more than okay. As well as my other symptoms, I also have a need to collect. And when I say collect, I mean if I become very attached to something or I like something, often or not, I will buy multiples of that item, or I will collect things like that item. For example, if there's anything glittery, I'll probably buy it. It doesn't matter what it is, I'll buy it. If it's pink, it doesn't matter what it is, I'll buy it. I collect a lot of makeup, often the same line of things in different shades, just because I like it so much. If I like a product so much that I'll usually buy it twice just in case I run out of it. I become obsessed with, I'm obsessed with the colour pink, so I buy a lot of pink. I have a lot of collections of things, so my bedroom is very cluttered because I have a lot of collections of really small things. Sometimes it can manifest as a single thing. So one year I watched Die Hard once a week for a whole year. No reason why, just because I really wanted to watch it once a week for a year. I also become very overwhelmed very easily. Certain smells, certain situations, weather, anything can just make me feel like I'm very overwhelmed. I need to go somewhere quiet, I need to sit down. That is not easy, and it doesn't happen a lot. It's only happened a couple of times in the last year, and those were very highly emotional situations. Other people would say this was a meltdown. Meltdown is used as a term to explain when an autistic person, it has become very overwhelmed and they start to shut down slightly. I have this kind of under control. I can kind of tell when I'm going to have one, and I usually remove myself from the situation that perhaps could be making me upset. And I try to go somewhere quiet and just kind of spend some time by myself, whether that means crying or you know, anything like that. It just means removing myself from that situation. I have a lot of other symptoms as well. It's really hard to talk about all the things, because obviously there's a huge list of things that I struggle with. I've just mentioned the big ones. You know, there's certain things like planning. I need to plan everything to an absolute T. If my friends ask me to go out really last minute, unless I know all the information for what's happening, where I'm going, how I'm getting there, how I'm getting home, what's going to happen when I get there, that when I get there I'm going to know people, I'm going to have people to talk to, I won't go. Purely just because I'm not in control of that situation. I don't know what's going to happen. Inevitability scares me, and potentially going somewhere where I don't know anyone, have no one to talk to, and I could be left by myself, or I would have to travel home by myself or get there, and it's just too much. And it kind of, but that hinders my social life as well, because obviously a lot of people don't want to plan things so far in advance, but that's one of my things. Travelling unusual routes that I don't know, unless I've planned it really far in advance and I know exactly where I'm going and the whole thing goes to plan, often or not I won't go. I need to know where I'm going, I need to know how I'm getting there, and I need to know how I'm getting back. I tend to not go anywhere where I have to come home late at night by myself, just because that is just too much for me. Obviously that's just not just a me thing, that's with other people who aren't autistic as well. But the fear of being somewhere, getting upset and having a meltdown where I can't be close to home, I can't be close to my home comforts, my mum, my dad, scare me. The thought of change also scares me. Anything that changes last minute, anything that happens last minute obviously scares me. My symptoms don't just affect me, they affect everyone around me. Whether that be my family, my friends, my colleagues. It can be off-putting, to say the least. I think a lot of people, if they had the choice, probably wouldn't spend much time with me, which is probably why I'm single. But there's a lot of people who do want to spend time with me and are used to my silly little quirks and the way that I do things, and I will try to interview a few people who deal with me quite regularly, who can give a bit more information on what it's like to deal with me as a person, what it's really like to be my friend and work with me, or be my parent. It's really hard, and I think I commend anyone that's spent any period of time with me, because I know I can be difficult, and I know that's easy for me to say. It's really easy for me to say I'm rude, and you know, but I'm autistic, I'm not rude. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm a compassionate person, and although I can't empathise with people, I'm compassionate about the situation. You know, if I have upset someone, and I have visually upset someone, although I might not empathise with why they're upset, what I've said has upset them, I can understand that them being upset is upsetting for them. My symptoms can make me a really difficult person to deal with, and you know, if I've ever upset anyone, or the way that I do things has upset anyone, I'm really sorry. I really don't mean it, and I don't mean to be a mean person on purpose, or even be mean at all. That's not who I am, and I'm not a horrible person. It's just, it's really hard when you can't empathise enough not to speak your mind out loud. Everything is quite blunt. Everything is quite literal. I don't do very well without being literal, and that upsets a lot of people. I like upfrontness. I like people telling me things up front, and although I might not like what I'm hearing, that's what I need to hear. I don't deal very well with, you know, beating around the bush or anything in that kind of scenario. I can't do it. It just confuses me. So if I've ever upset you because of my actions, I do apologise. I hope this video helps at least one other person. And again, if you need help or support, or you want some more resources, go to the National Autistic Society website and they have pretty much everything that you need to know. Again, my social media is always open to anyone who ever wants to ask me any questions. You can tweet me or you can inbox me on Instagram, but keep up to date with these so that I can, you know, when I'm going to post videos. If these videos are even helpful to anyone, or if anyone watches them, they might not be watched by anyone, but I hope that at least one person watches them and it helps them in, you know, the way that they're living their life. Thank you for watching, and again, if there's any other resources that you want or need, the National Autistic Society website has a lot of information on it for not just autistic people, but people without autism as well. Again, my social media is open for anyone who ever wants to ask me any questions, and you can keep up to date with how I'm doing on there. Thank you.